Oh, hello, my Bill 5000 Nation. How is everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. Been trying some different lighting. I think it looks better, honestly. It's not as, yeah, I think it looks a lot better. I hope you guys think it looks a lot better, because this was a pain. But I'm gonna lie. Alright, so we're back. We are starting with some Mind Seed TV. This one is titled Summoning Real Cursed Dybbuk Mirror in Haunted Desert Goes Wrong. Very scary paranormal activity. I cannot talk today. What's going on? I ain't had enough coffee today. That's the problem. That's the problem. I'm going to fix that problem. Better. Alright. So, you know what time it is. It's time to turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cut up with someone special. Let's get spooky.
We're pretty much secluded here. I didn't even finish my sentence. Oh, what the fuck is that? The animal? So we got fires lit all around right now. This is fucking crazy.
Alright. This is effing crazy, bruh.
So Colton drove down to Las Vegas and began.
I do like Mind Seed TV. I do. I could not tell you if any of it is real in any way, shape, or form. But I do like it. They have the series Hunting Purgatory. It's amazing. It really is. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, this is the first time you're seeing it, definitely go over, hit them up on their channel, show them some love, subscribe to them, give a couple videos a try. It's actually really good. And he's got different places that on his channel you can go, different playlists. He's got some where he's opening Dybbuk boxes. He's got some where he's opening dark web boxes, and they're all actually pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie. It's got kind of a Ghost Adventure-y feel to it. It's nice. It's nice. It's nice. I like it. It's nice.
Dealing with some unfortunate events after he came into contact with the mirror.
So I hit up Tanner. We were over at his place, and he went out for a bit, and I had some alone time with it myself, so I had turned off all the lights, started staring into it, scrying into it for about 20, 30 minutes or so. And, I mean, later that night, you know me, dude, I don't really submit to all that stuff, but, I'm leaving his house, and I severely sprained my ankle walking down the stairs. And on my way back to my hotel, I get T-boned at a red light. My car got totaled. And when the guy got out of the car, even him, he had, no recollection of the accident, almost like he was lost or, he didn't know what was going on.
What?
I don't know. It was a really trippy experience. So I head back to the hotel. I throw some ice on my ankle, and I wake up to a phone call the next morning, man. This was a heavy one, honestly. Sorry. Kind of getting choked up talking about it. But that night that I had stared into the mirror, apparently a friend of mine had taken his own life, and I woke up to the phone call, literally with people just frantic, telling me what happened, and all of these things that occurred in just a short period of time. You know me, dude. I'm skeptical of most situations, but I can't say that anything occurred based on, my interaction with the mirror. But if I ever see that fucking thing again, it'll be way too soon. I don't even want to hear about it. I don't want to know. I don't ever want to see that thing or come in contact with it in any way ever again.
Whoa. Okay, I've never heard of a Dybbuk mirror. I've heard of Dybbuk boxes and stuff like that. And you have the Pelosi's. mirror, I think it is, that like Zach Baggins has in his haunted museum or whatever in Vegas. Whoa, that, I mean, for that not to be tied, I'm telling you, I cannot talk to that. For that not to be tied to the mirror, that's just a lot of weird coincidences to happen right afterwards. I mean, going down the stairs and spraining your ankle, we have all been there, miss a step, or think we were on that last step, and we have all had that situation. Every last one of us. But then the step, getting T-boned, could happen. Like if you have really just shitty luck, I guess. And then your friend killing yourself, like, and getting that's too much, you know. Like, there's something wrong here. Yeah, I'd burn that mirror. I'd break into a million little pieces, set it on fire, mix some water in with it, freeze it, take a chainsaw to it, cut up into little squares, and ship them to different corners of the earth, never to be seen from again. It's just what I'd do. Oh, that's stupid. That's stupid. In the middle of a desert, you're going to summon whatever's in this mirror out. That's stupid. No. No. That's catchy. Hunting Purgatory.
So a friend of mine from the West Coast reached out and said he found some locations that were active and perfect for paranormal investigating.
Hey, my name's Tanner, born and raised in Vegas. I'm an EMT-iger, so I've seen lots of creepy stuff. And as a hobby, I'm into paranormal investigations. I've been doing it for 8 to 10 years, and I found a lot of really active places out here that I wanted to share with Casey.
When he said he had a cursed mirror, I was definitely on board. No questions asked.
So I got the mirror from a friend of mine in Las Vegas that was gifted the mirror from her mother, and her mother got it from a group of pagans that used to use it for all types of satanic rituals like seances.
When asked to do an interview,
She texted me, "Honestly, that mirror has caused me so much pain and misery, I want nothing to do with it."
I even offered some cash to try to get her story on camera because I felt like it was that important to have in this whole thing, but she refused and said,
"The money won't make up for the things I've had to deal with while it's been in my possession."
So tonight we're going to be investigating this mirror to see if we can figure out what's actually attached to it, but we're doing it in a location that Tanner said is highly active for paranormal activity and secluded in the middle of nowhere.
So this specific spot in the desert is a known dumping ground for bodies since the very beginning of Las Vegas, mostly known for the mob, and to this day we get calls out there for bodies.
Typically, I've done cursed items in the past. I've done Dybbuk boxes, mystery boxes. I've never done anything quite like this. And me and Tanner, we're going to check out this mirror, which has been said to do a lot of really bad things to people. And not only is the mirror said to be cursed, we're actually in a location that there's been tons of dead bodies found.
These fools, bro. No, I could not hang with them. Hey, let's get a mirror that will probably kill someone. Let's try to summon it. Plus, let's do it out in the middle of bumfucked Egypt, where no one's going to hear us scream. And how do we know this? Because mafiosos would take people out there and shoot them in the face.
Mafia from cartel. There's been a lot of death out here where we're at right now, and we're literally in the middle of nowhere. There's not another person around probably for miles. We're pretty much secluded here. So we're going to do some spirit box tests. We're going to try Ouija board in a little while. And
Brave.
here we go. Yeah, so this is it. Just knowing that there are dead people found out here all the time is creepy enough alone. So we'll take turns asking questions. Okay. We'll get this thing rolling. Sometimes we get stuff, sometimes we don't.
Is there any demonic being present with us now? Can you communicate with us through the box?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what it said.
I don't know what it said here. Can you say that again? You're a woman?
I thought it was a woman, and honestly, just it was quick. Like I'm here.
Yeah, it did kind of sound like a woman, huh? Watch.
Yeah, I don't know what it said.
I don't know what it said here.
Not far enough. Not far enough. Sorry, y'all.
Sometimes we get stuff, sometimes we don't.
Is there any demonic being present with us now? Can you communicate with us through the box? Yeah,
it did sound like a lady. It did sound like a lady. It could have been a lady. I mean, they didn't care who they took out to the desert and shot in the face. Just saying.
You're a woman?
I thought it was a woman, and honestly, just it was quick. Like I'm here.
What is that? It's never done that.
That's some major
I always put
interference.
new batteries in the equipment at the beginning of every investigation, and there's no reason that the spirit box should have been acting like that. Alright, so all I did was just slow the speed down, and it's back to normal. I don't know why I was going like crazy like that on that speed, but
I'm already convinced.
yeah, I've heard a couple of women's voices come through. Are you a woman? Someone said, who's this?
Yeah, that's a woman's voice.
I think it was I'm a woman. Who's this? What is your name?
There's whispering in it. That light, we had another light set up just died. We got one over here, we got the light from the fire, but just wanted to kind of document that in the video.
Is the voice we're hearing from you? Is it from the mirror?
It don't matter.
Can you speak louder?
It don't matter where that voice is coming from. It's there, bro. Like, no. Go now. Turn around, run away.
Can you tell us if that's you?
I don't trust nobody. Shut the F up.
Dude, did you hear that? I swear to God, I heard a voice that shut the f up, and then the thing just speak.
It did.
I'm
Shut
screaming
up.
too.
There's a certain feeling you get when you're trying to communicate and your EMF detector starts to go off.
Oh yeah, did you get like chills? I just got chills too, bro. 100%, I just got chills.
Well, maybe.
That's a rude spirit, bro.
I mean, I'm assuming she at this point is ready to open a little dialogue with us.
Yeah. If that was you, I didn't even finish my sentence. If that was you, I didn't even finish my sentence.
Let's watch him here and hello.
I hope it was on too. Like I actually got that.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Yo, did you just hear something out there?
I didn't. but I was like zoned on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, we gotta get some flashlights out of my bag, anyways, because our lights are all dying. So we might have to reset it up. Yeah, that's why you always bring backup lights and batteries and you know. Yeah, that's pretty right.
Case,
Yo,
check this out.
what's up? What up? Oh, what the fuck is that? Is that an animal? Yeah. What do you think that is?
My best guess, honestly, probably be a coyote. There's
Coyote?
so many damn coyotes out here, man.
Really?
Yeah.
I hope they have their guns. I'm just saying. Oh God. Hey, look at this. What is? It's just coyote. I mean, it's just a coyote. Yes. Of like all the things that could, kill you and eat you, you're going to be less scared of a coyote. That's because, you have such things as wolves and bears and grizzlies and polar bears in some places and dragons and gigantic lizards that will just skull hump you. And I'd still be a little worried though. I mean, more likely there's probably been a lot of dead people out there, and these coyotes are probably used to eating human flesh. Dead human flesh.
You think it's gonna put us?
Their eyes. Oh, no.
No?
No, they don't come near people.
Seeing eyes in the darkness in the middle of nowhere definitely is uncomfortable. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I've seen them a bunch.
You see them out here a lot?
Yeah.
Is there any more? It's just the one.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah, it's just the one, right? It's crazy. He's just chilling. It's like he's just sitting out there.
Yeah, like if I threw a rock or something
He'd
over there.
probably run away.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's cool though, man. I'm in a different territory out here. This is not like my regular, you
We
know?
have some. I mean, our nature out here is pretty safe overall. We got some, like, obviously rattlers, rattlesnakes. They'll do that.
When he said it was just a coyote, I didn't really worry too much from that point on. Go for it. Yeah, we're good. We're loaded left.
Are all the bad things? that
What if it's
happen-
not a coyote? What if it's a damn evil spirit out there waiting to do things to you? I would trust nothing right now.
because of you?
Did you hear that though? No, I mean like I don't mean to interrupt you. I really just heard coyote out there. How?
No,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, you can hear him
That's
howl out
right.
here. No, yeah, you do hear him howl out here.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Sometimes it's all dramatic.
Yeah.
It's super loud.
All right, go for it. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sorry. Are the bad things that happen are because of you?
Are you the one that was tormenting the previous owner?
So imagine Bones picked up. It's watching, stop poking, it's watching.
Did you not like the previous owner of the meal?
Maybe it's not a coyote. Maybe it's a possessed coyote.
I'm hearing you. Like, I know for a fact I heard a coyote howling, but I just heard something else, dude. I don't know. I couldn't tell what it was. Yeah, right. What the fuck was that, bro?
That's a line.
That's a lion?
Not mine.
100%?
I'm pretty sure it's mine.
I've lived here my whole life and hunted in these deserts since I was a kid. That was definitely not a coyote.
I don't know. I couldn't tell what it was. Yeah, right.
That's a growl.
I thought I heard like a. I don't know. I couldn't tell what it was. Yeah, right.
Yeah, we need to set up some more light.
Want to spread this fire out?
Definitely. They don't people usually, but
Yeah.
that's the main way to grab wood.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Being in the middle of a desert. is to be stalked by mountain lions.
No.
My boys live way out here.
He's got his gun. He's ready.
So we got fires lit all around right now. What's up?
30, 40.
30, 40?
Yeah. It takes a few minutes to get here.
Well, we should be good if we got
Yeah, I mean,
everything.
we needed water.
You got that flashlight still? Yeah, let me just do like a quick scan around. This is fucking crazy.
I would be probably shitting all over myself right now. Like, no lie. Coyotes, yeah. Who cares? Mountain lions, though? Whoa. What?
Holy How the did that just happen, bro?
Oh, no.
That's up, bro. That's really up, man. Holy
Honestly, there's no explanation as to how that mirror broke when we were standing 30, 40 feet away.
I don't know.
that really just happened.
I would have left it in the middle of it. I would have set it on fire and left it there. No. Oh, God, no. Like that takes some energy. That would take some energy right there. All these animals are coming out of the woodwork. Camera batteries are being drained. Light batteries are being drained. The detector goes off. There's a face in the mirror, and then it just cracks. Oh, no. No, sir. No.
I find it kind of strange that the smaller mirror ended up being the one that broke, the one that we had bought as a prop for the shoot, and not the bigger one. And I'm kind of wondering, is it because it was facing the cursed mirror?
Watch yourself, dude. It's sharp as.
I get a weird vibe, dude. Even looking at that thing, it's crazy.
I'd leave them. I'd leave them both. I won't take a damn one of them.
All right, let's get out of here.
So I didn't experience anything that was the same caliber of Colton's issues, but the night that I did get the mirror, I had a terrible nightmare. I was scouting a location for me and Casey, and I was brought down to the basement of this home where this guy's kid had hung himself, and as soon as we got there, he closed the door. The guy looked at me, he said, "He's here now." And then a terrible demonic voice, I just heard, "Hallelujah." And I woke up and was like shook and terrified. and also trying to go back to sleep that night. You know, when you're in a half sleep state and you hear things, you're not sure if they're real or not. 3 separate times I heard chains rattling together. Fall asleep, chains, and on the third one I just decided to wake up because I was so spooked.
I believe in attachment, spiritual attachment to items. And with this mirror, if I had to answer yes or no, if it's cursed or not, when we were out there, I could feel a negative presence the whole time we were there.
If I had to say it was cursed or not, I would say when I'm around it, I feel uncomfortable, bad things happen, and it's definitely not coming home with me.
Yeah, there was something wildlife related out there looking at us.
Call Zach back and he'll take it. He'll give it a good home.
I could feel something. All the stories of other people having tons of unfortunate and crazy things happen to them after they've looked into this mirror, I would say it's probably a good idea that nobody does look into this mirror.
I don't know what I'm going to ultimately end up doing with the mirror, but for the time being, I'm going to put it in storage until I figure out a plan of what I want to do with it. It's definitely not going in my house.
All right. That was some Mind TV, Hunting Purgatory. Whew. That was. Oh, what the hell that was. That was something. All right, we're going to move on to top 5. This is 5 things that we would find if we drain the world's oceans. Sorry. I said weird oceans. I was like, what?
Ocean water makes up 70% of the surface of the Earth. Just imagine if we could empty the oceans and drain away all the water. If we ignore the fact that our world is going to end up just like the planet Venus, with scorching temperatures and unbreathable air. In the few weeks before the seas become deserts, what secrets would we find on the ocean floor? Ancient sunken cities, the remnants of battles fought at sea, or even pirate treasures are just a few of the things we would find if we could drain the oceans. Now, before we take a look at the bottom of our ocean, we'd like to say a huge thank you to MrBallen for sponsoring this video and giving us the opportunity to unique perspectives. Sunken slave ships. Britain was the biggest trafficker of Africans for over 400 years. Its great wealth was fueled by the transatlantic slave trade. It's hard to imagine the journey made by those 12 million poor souls captured.
I would not want to imagine that.
First, men, women, and children would be snatched or sold.
To be ripped away from everything you know and love by strange, unknown people. I mean, I would never.
From the native villages and then taken and held at barracoons along the West African coast. Many died in these internment camps, even before the boats arrived. But those who lived had to suffer the horror of life on a slave ship as they were transported away from their homes and their loved ones. Sadly, many of these ships were lost to the sea before the captives had even sighted the coast of North and South America and the Caribbean. The floor of the Atlantic has been described as a graveyard and a crime scene because more than 2 million of those people trafficked died en route. Conditions on board the ship were horrific. The owners wanted to cram in as many enslaved as possible to maximize space and make each trip as profitable as possible. The people were kept naked, shackled together, with hardly any room to move. They were underfed and treated with violence and cruelty. Now that the water is gone, the Clotilda would be just one of many slave ships found sitting on what was once the ocean floor in the Gulf of Mexico. In 1859, the Clotilda had illegally travelled from Benin in Africa to Mobile, Alabama. Timothy Meeher, a wealthy shipyard owner, had made a bet that he could smuggle slaves into the US, despite the fact that their importation had been illegal since 1807. The Clotilda had 110 enslaved people on board, who were taken ashore and given away to the financial backers of the venture. Timothy then set the Clotilda on fire and sank her to hide any evidence and avoid any punishment. She was known as the last slave ship. Yet another sunken slave ship that would now be exposed in the Gulf of Mexico would be the Guerrero.
I'd shoot
It was
him in his
wrecked in
face.
1827 and was carrying 561 Africans. By this time, international slavery had been banned in Britain for 20 years, in the US for 19, and in Spain for 7. Nevertheless, the Spanish laws were generally ignored, and the Cuban colonists welcomed regular deliveries of slaves for enforced work on their sugar plantations. The British had patrols to capture slavery vessels on the African coast and around the Cuban capital of Havana. The warship HMS Nimble spotted the Guerrero and gave chase. The sea battle commenced, and the Guerrero collided with coral from the Florida Reef, tearing her hull open. The boat began to sink, killing 41 of the 561 slaves. The Nimble was also in trouble and stranded on the reef. Other ships sailed to help the stricken vessel, but they were hijacked by the surviving Spaniards, who sailed away in their stolen ships, taking the Africans to Cuba anyway. The Gulf of Mexico is not the only place where we will find the wreckage of lost slave ships. Just off what was once the coast of Suriname, in the South America, we will find that the North Atlantic Ocean has been emptied of water, and what was once the mouth of the River Maroni, we will discover that Lazuden, during her 10 voyages as a Dutch slaver, she carried 6,564 enslaved. 1,639 did not even survive the journey. In 1738 she was caught in a storm and slowly capsized. The captain ordered that his crew should nail the hold shut. Almost 700 men, women and children were either drowned or suffocated. The captain was later rewarded by the Dutch West Indies Company for saving a casket of gold from the ship. A cruel and heartbreaking waste of human lives.
And he nailed it shut, so these poor people would just drown and die. Scared, ripped away from their home, suffering, probably riddled with disease and everything from being in contact with people they've never been in contact before, and then they're just going to nail it shut and just let no. And then he's rewarded because he saved some gold. Needs to be shot in his face.
Pirate treasure. The 17th century has long been associated with swashbuckling adventures and villainous buccaneers. Now that all of the water is gone, we may have a chance of finding some of the infamous pirate treasure brought to
That Blackbeard?
William Kidd, who became known as Captain Kidd, was born in Scotland in 1645. He began his career as a legitimate privateer who was employed by the East India Company to apprehend any pirates who would often attack their ships. After having set sail on his ship, the Adventure Galley, in 1696, he decided to turn to piracy himself. 2 years later, he hijacked the Quebec merchant. After finding out that he was wanted for piracy, Kidd left his ship at the island of Hispaniola in the West Indies. But it is off Catalana near the Dominican Republic that we will find the lost wreck sitting on what was once the seafloor. There is no treasure on board, but maybe we will now find that off the coast of New York State. It is thought that Kidd buried it on a different island there, just before he was caught and hanged. Benjamin Hornigold was a master pirate, and at one time he had Blackbeard as his second in command. He had a company of pirates, and also established the Pirates' Republic, where he would mentor others in the art of pillaging. One of his apprentices was Oliver Levasseur, who was also known as La Bousse, or the Buzzard, because of the speed in which he would attack and hijack other ships. He is thought to have had the biggest treasure haul in the world, worth over $1 billion. At his hanging, the Buzzard threw a necklace into the crowd. It contained a 17-line cryptogram, which when decoded would give the location of his treasure. In 1923, on Belle Ombre Beach on the island of Mahe, a local woman found strange carvings on some rocks. Local archives proved that the Buzzard owned the land there. John Cruz Wilkins has been hunting for the treasure on Mahe for over 30 years. He has found pistols, statuettes and bones, but believes that the real treasure is in underwater caves near to the beach. Now that the water is gone, we can enter the caves, we will finally see the precious stones, gold and silver bars, gem-encrusted goblets, and crosses that are thought to make that Hornigold's pirate home.
I don't know about you all, but I would love to find some treasure. Shoot. Anyone ever watch like DuckTales when they was little and Scrooge McDuck would like jump into like and swim around in all of his gold coins? I would do it. I mean, I would be seriously hurt jumping that far into a bunch of metal coins, but I would swim on it. Yeah.
Lost treasures of the Mediterranean. Surrounded by southern Europe to the north and North Africa to the south, the Mediterranean Ocean once covered an area of 970,000 square miles. Now the body of water that played a major part in the history of Western civilization is gone. It was once home to the ancient empires of the Romans, Greeks, and Egyptians. Now that the water has been drained away, we will be able to see the relics of the many bloody wars that were fought throughout the centuries, such as the Battle of Sardina Sea, fought between the Greeks and the Carthaginians in 540 BCE, just off the coast of Corsica, or the Battle of the Masts, fought between the Muslim Arabs and the Byzantine Empire off the coast of Turkey during the 7th century. It is thought that more than 400 ships sank during the conflict. Once known as the Pharaohs of Alexandria, it was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Now we will be able to see what remains of this famous lighthouse, which stood on the island of Pharos in what was once the harbour of Alexandria, Egypt. The building of the lighthouse was finally finished in about 280 BCE, during the reign of Ptolemy II of Egypt. Alexandria was once an important trade hub, and ships came to the harbour from all over Europe and Asia. The lighthouse was considered the tallest structure on Earth at the time it was built, standing 350 feet high. Sadly, the lighthouse fell into the sea.
See, they say all the time, oh, there's nothing on this planet that we don't know. Yes, there is. There's so much of the oceans that we can't explore because we just don't have the ability. There's places that we didn't even know exist. I mean, what if we go underwater and there's like this cave that's got like this air bubble and there's just a whole other kind of civilization in there that we didn't even know? Bro, that'd be cool. Find Atlantis.
When it was destroyed during an earthquake in the 14th century. It's thought that a huge statue stood on top of the lighthouse, representing the sun god Helios. Now perhaps we'll be able to stand next to the blocks of stone that were used to build the pharaohs. About 20 miles north of what remains of the lighthouse, we'll find Abu Qir Bay. Here, in 1798, the British Royal Navy, led by Rear Admiral Horatio Nelson, fought the Battle of the Nile during the French Revolutionary Wars. The naval operation had been raging across the Mediterranean for 3 months, ending here with the defeat of Napoleon's fleet. Here we can see the remnants of the French flagship, the Orient, which sank when the ammunition on board her exploded during the battle. This defeat gave the British Navy a dominant position for the rest of the war, and incited other European countries to turn against Bonaparte. To the west of Italy, we will now find a drained inlet that was once the Bay of Naples. 2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire was at the height of its power, and the city of Baia on the northwest shore of the bay became famous as a place for decadence and immortality. It was frequented by wealthy Romans, and even Julius Caesar had a villa there. Before the oceans were drained, only half of the ancient city could be seen, because 430 acres of Baia's streets, storehouses, shops and villas had fallen beneath the sea due to volcanic movement.
Whoa!
We will now be able to see the harbour walls that were built by the Romans, and the walls of elaborate villas with their intricate and mosaic tiled floors. Here there would have been extravagant parties hosted by Roman emperors.
That'd be cool.
We will be able to walk through the dining room of the Emperor Claudius, with its statues of water nymphs. An underwater city that was once the party capital of the Roman Empire will be accessible to us once again.
That would be cool. Go to be able to walk someplace where people have not walked in thousands of years. I mean, it would suck that there was absolutely no water on Earth. Don't get it twisted. We would all die. But like right before you died, to be able to go and see some of these places, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Like, yeah. Alright.
The North.
He looks
King John the
scared.
Bad reigned over England in the 13th century. Although he was known for the founding of Magna Carta, an early Bill of Rights, he was an exceptionally cruel man and used starvation as a form of punishment.
He
At
looks
one
like he
time
needs
he
some
starved
chicken.
12 knights to death at Corfe Castle.
Needs something.
He plotted against his own brother Richard the Lionheart and arranged the murder of his own nephew, all in order to seize the throne, which in 1216 he was fighting against the French to retain. John contradicted dysentery and was crossing an area known as the Wash so that he could get back to Newark Castle. The Wash was a bay on the east coast of England. When the seas were full of water, the Wash could be crossed at low tide, but it was known to be treacherous because of hidden whirlpools and quicksand. King John's baggage train consisted of carts stuffed full of his crown jewels and money. The tide rushes in quickly, and the carts were lost. The soldiers drowned. John was lucky to escape with his life, and died from his illnesses a week later. Perhaps we can now find the carts full of goblets, swords, jewellery, and coins in the dried-up bay. The haul is estimated to be worth over £50 million. Viking warriors once struck terror all across Europe. These Scandinavian explorers built extraordinary sailing boats known as longships, and used them to raid and conquer other lands. But they also had a huge trading network that reached from North America to the rivers of Asia. Their ships were way ahead of their time. They were designed to cut through the water with precision. On rare occasions, a ship would be used for the burial of a dead king or a great warrior and would be set adrift at sea. How many of these Viking longships will we now find on the drained floors of the oceans and rivers across 3 continents? During the reign of the Protestant Queen Elizabeth I in 1588, the Spanish Armada was a fleet of ships sent by the Catholic Philip II to invade England. After being defeated in the English Channel, the Armada retreated north in an attempt to flee around the top of the coast of Scotland. It was here that they hit storms, especially off the north and west coast of Ireland. There, 28 of the 130 Spanish Navy ships that set out from Spain wrecked. We already know the site of the Girona at Lacada Point, near the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. She hit the jagged rocks there and went down, losing almost 1,300 men.
Whoa.
We will now be able to get down to the seabed and see the Girona, as well as the Santa Maria de la Rosa of County Kerry and La Trinidad Valenciera of County Donegal. Some of the treasures already found by divers at the wreck sites included gold and silver coins, as well as collections of gold jewellery, siege guns and textiles. Now we will be able to access the other 25 Armada shipwrecks and see what treasure.
See, I would love to do that, but I'm scared to death that a shark's going to eat my big ass. Be like that one dude that got ate by a whale. That'd be scary. No, see, no.
As they have to reveal. One of the most famous treasure hunts in the world has been going on for hundreds of years. It began on Oak Island, Nova Scotia, Canada, in 1795. Daniel McGuinness was only a teenager when he discovered a man-made shaft that is 100 feet deep. It has become known as the Money Pit. 6 men have lost their lives over the years while searching for the treasure of Oak Island, which is...
And if I'm not mistaken, it's like 7 or 8 men have to lose their lives before the treasure of Oak Island reveals itself. I don't know. I get on, I think it's History Channel. Maybe Discovery Channel. Maybe A&E. I don't know. But on one of them, there's like the legend of Oak Island. Like these brothers, they're twins. They have been doing this for most of their lives. It's a really interesting TV show. It really is. I like it. I like stuff like this stuff.
believed to be cursed. Every time the hunters get close to discovering their riches, the pit floods with water, because the nearby beach cove is not even a real beach, but a huge filtering and drainage system. Whoever had buried the treasure had wanted to keep the pit flooded and keep any looters out. Now the water of the North Atlantic is gone, and there is no need to keep bailing and pumping out the water. We will finally find what lies at the bottom of the pit. Hunters have found tantalizing clues over the years, such as a large stone with strange markings found in 1803. More recently, it was deciphered as saying 40 feet below 2 million pounds are buried. Many myths have grown around the pit over the years, and could it hold the missing jewelry of the doomed Queen Mary Antoinette? Our friend, Captain Kidd, is rumoured to have stashed some treasure there. It's even claimed that the Francis Bacon hid documents there that prove he was actually the author of Shakespeare's plays. Maybe it's just an elaborate hoax, and we will find nothing there. But if all the ocean in the world was drained away, at least now we'd finally be able to know.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd be so happy. There would be a final ending to the show.
Just off the coast of Alexandria, we can walk around what was once the kingdom of Cleopatra. She belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty and was the last pharaoh of the world's longest living society.
Yep.
The city of Heraklion probably ended up under the Mediterranean Sea because of earthquakes and tidal waves. We can walk among the foundations of Cleopatra's palace and admire statues of the goddess Isis and the Sphinx. Off the state of Grata.
See, all this stuff that is some beautiful, beautiful architecture. And unless you know how to go diving and go down there and look at it, most of us will never see it unless it's on the Discovery Channel. That would be so cool to actually go to one of these places. If, God forbid, it ever did happen to where the water just went somewhere and we could go to these places. It would be god awful, but that would be so cool. If there's a way to put a barrel type deal around it, suck out all the water where people could go down there and visit and see this stuff, that would be amazing. I would love it. I would love it. I love historical stuff. I do so much.
And to the north of the city of Mumbai is what was once the Arabian Sea. Here in the Gulf of Kambat is another city. This one is 5 miles long and 2 miles wide. Incredibly, it is thought to have been built 9,500 years ago. Perhaps we can now prove that the lost city of Dwaraka, the Golden City, is real and not just a myth. If the city really is as old as archaeologists think, then the whole belief surrounding the origins of civilization will have to be reassessed. Back now to the Mediterranean, where we will find the city of Palovapetri, just off the coast of southern Greece. The city was once a busy port for both the Mycenaean and Minoan civilizations. Sadly, the original name of the city has been lost over the years. Maybe we will find some form of inscription somewhere as we walk around the ruins that will help us to find the city's forgotten name. We can walk along the roads, explore the streets, buildings, and temples. We can explore the Bronze Age stone coffins in the cemetery and the complex system of water pipes and channels that the people of the city used. We can even walk into the large plaza that stands at the center of the city and imagine what life was like 5,000 years ago. And finally, we can revisit the Caribbean Sea to walk through the ruins of what was once referred to as the wickedest city on earth, Port Royal. At the height of its notoriety, Port Royal was an exciting place and a hub for traders of expensive goods from all over the world. It was a place that attracted merchants, artisans, and of course pirates, who all contributed towards the economy and vibrancy of the city. 33 acres of Port Royal were submerged after an earthquake in 1692, and some of the buildings even remained intact. So if all the ocean was drained, we can walk along the Lime Street in the commercial centre, where it intersects with Queen Street and High Street. We could wander through the buildings there and see their whitewashed walls and herringbone patterned brick floors. Buildings where the citizens overindulged with alcohol and food, where they visited the casinos and brothels before the quake caused them to slide into the sea. Up until now, only 1% of the ocean floor has been surveyed, so who knows what other secrets we will find laying on the floor.
He ain't wrong.
What has been described as the biggest museum of the world. So that's just a handful of the many things we would find if we could somehow drain the world's oceans. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.
That would be so cool. I would love that so much. Alright, we're going to do some top 15. This is called Top 15 Scary Videos You'll Regret Watching. I regret it already.
Number 15, Abdullah Al-Anbari is followed
or what he describes as a ghoul, when he explores an old neighborhood that was abandoned long ago. His stalker appears to be a silhouette, even under a high-powered light that brightens everything around it.
Bismillah.
It could be someone wearing long flowing robes, or it could be a shadow person. Maybe it's just me, but the ghoul looks much bigger here at 5 minutes and 54 seconds when he sees it again. When it pokes around the corner at 8 minutes and 3 seconds, it seems much larger than the average sized person.
I'll be gone. I'll be gone. I'll be dipping.
Even from down this long hill,
Deuces.
you can see this figure is indeed tall and strong looking too, as it lumbers ahead.
Screw that. Why would this fool stay there? Oh, I'd been gone. I would have dipped. Deuces. Audi 5000.
It looks like the creature is going to follow him all the way home, if he lets it, so Abdullah recites a phrase, at which point the ghoul recoils from the sacred words, or perhaps more realistically, ducks under the window and is not seen again.
له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه.
Was this all planned? Or
I don't care.
Really spontaneous.
That's creepy, bro.
Number 14, a YouTuber named Unnouns posted this trail cam footage he caught while camping at the foot of Maple Mountain in Ontario. For 2 nights in a row, a strange and loud humming noise made him pass out from 8 at night until 11 in the morning the next day. At first, you can only see this curly, out-of-focus object, but it's actually the arm of this giant creature. If it is a costume, it's really good, and I wouldn't even know where to step in. The blob glows pure white as it curiously handles the camera, then its glow extends to the tree behind. Unknowns claims he had no idea what was camping with him those 2 nights. Do you believe him? I certainly do.
I don't.
13. This video from New Britain, Connecticut shows that nowhere is safe for kids anymore.
No, I don't believe that at all. In any way, shape, or form. Don't feed me that mess, Chills. What's wrong with you, bro? Come on now, bud.
Even their own neighborhoods during the day. This girl is keeping to herself when this gray 4-door vehicle pulls up from behind. I can see at 1 minute and 18 seconds that the window is down, and the driver is possibly leaning out to say something. The car comes to a complete stop, which is suspicious because she has nothing to offer a passing stranger. A moment later, the girl takes off away from the van, and they speed off in the other direction. According to police, this vehicle looked dirty, like it had been taken down a dirt road many times before. The doors could only be opened from the outside. Dan General recently caught this alleged ghost on his doorbell cam. First, a living person walks by his home, followed closely by a not-so-living apparition. It's about the same height as the person in front, so it could just be their trailing after image. But still, notice how the phantom stalker actually becomes brighter and gains detail as it steps under the streetlight. The camera also freezes at the 6-second mark, possibly short-circuiting under a surge of paranormal energy. Number 12. They tell you to keep your eyes on the road at all times, because you never know what's about to happen next. Everyone looks like they're driving fine here, but someone is about to make a major mistake, and you'll never guess who. A private plane is pretty much the last thing you'd expect to be cut off by while on the highway. Yet here this pilot is with one wing already touched down.
What?
It looks like this dash cam is from an 18-wheeler too, so this was almost an ugly mishap, with massive turmoil I would imagine. I noticed these letters on the side, and was able to trace them back to a manufacturer in Canada.
What?
Beyond that, I have no idea where in Canada this took place, or if everyone was alright. So if you have more information about this mysterious event, then please let us all know.
Yeah, I need to know. What the is that? What? No.
Date I was able to track down the original source of this video.
Just incredible video captured from that dash cam video, and we can tell you that the plane is still here on the property as this investigation continues. And we've since learned that that plane is privately owned. It wasn't a flight school, but the operator was conducting flight lessons for a student.
Number 11. Two fishermen from New York are on Lake Champlain when they...
What kind of lesson was he? Hey, a car makes you angry, just fly in front of it.
Notice a large object is causing a disturbance in the water behind them. Soon a large creature comes close to the surface but never emerges.
The further mystery of Champ, a legend that swims just below the surface and just out of camera range.
The fishermen say that this is only a small portion of a much larger creature. The lake gets around 20 sightings per year, and this footage was even verified by two former FBI agents. Still, with that said, there just isn't enough video evidence to fully convince me, so I'll let you draw a conclusion for yourself. Dozens of fish are pouring out of this ice fishing hole, and no one has been able to figure out why. Listen to this part and try to translate what these two men are saying if you can. I think it might be Russian.
Вот такой дурачок. Дырку нас сделал. Надо смотреть, пока он... Ну да, покажу, вот есть.
At first, I thought maybe they had used underwater blasts to stun the fish, but you can clearly see that the fish are still moving on their own and appear to be jumping through the hole through their own free will. I have no idea what could cause all these fish to rush to their doom, and from the sound of their nervous chatter, neither do these fishing experts. Maybe the fish are trying to escape a huge predator beneath the surface, or perhaps it is some kind of natural phenomenon beyond explanation. Number 10. It's broad daylight in San Jose, California, when these two men creep into the yard wearing black. One of them has on gloves and a hood. The other doesn't bother with a disguise as they enter the home. It looks like they might be unarmed at first, but 47 seconds into the video is when you first see that one of them is holding a blade. At 1 minute and 2 seconds, he uses it to motion to his friend that he is going upstairs. They check from room to room, not bothering to take anything, and not really searching for valuables, and they quickly find a locked door with people inside, 2 women and a baby. The one with his hood up quickly points out that they are not alone. They look ready to run down the steps and out the door, but then they instead decide to try and break into the room, which is now locked. They again look ready to leave, but at the last second, one of them tries to unsuccessfully kick open the door the final time. Finally, they get too nervous and decide to run away. It's hard to tell if they were here to take items or take lives. They walk around with their blades pointing out, and they don't seem to have a bag to carry anything in, so maybe they were doing this for the sheer thrill of terrifying a family. The fact that...
I hope they got caught, and I hope bad things happen to them.
One of them didn't bother with a disguise makes me wonder if he had no intentions of leaving any witnesses and just didn't tell his friend. Number 9,
Possibly.
A YouTuber named The Modern...
People do not care anymore. Period.
Mombi is sipping her coffee while pumping gas while she notices someone watching her get into her car. She lets it slide until she sees him looking at her again.
But yeah, he keeps speaking to us.
She is making a video probably in the hopes that it will make him too ashamed to continue, but he looks straight at her and seems to smirk. It's a weird and creepy expression that he has no excuse to keep making if they are strangers. Maybe he thinks he recognizes her, but if that were the case, staring at her instead of saying hello is rude and suspicious to say the least.
That was so creepy.
Maybe the camera is the only thing keeping him from being more intrusive. He eventually gets in the car and drives away. That's when she realizes she's in her work uniform and hopes he won't be staring at her sometime soon at her job. Number 8. A YouTuber named LaxRebel225 is playing a video game at home when he hears something loudly bust through the front door. He's frantically looking from room to room when finally he hears it making a racket again, this time from the kitchen. When he crosses into the kitchen, nothing is to be found. Instead, he hears it again from behind. I'm not sure why he stomps his foot here. If he's trying to scare the creature away, it doesn't work. Lax Rebel does a full circle around his home and ends up standing just outside of the kitchen again. He seems to get a bad feeling and hesitates. That's when this inhuman noise fills his house. The creature seems to say something in a chittering language that almost sounds like an evil laugh. Then it leaves his home, shutting the door behind itself. Maybe I'm just overthinking, but the alien's voice sounds very high quality, like way too good for the average YouTuber to edit into their video with home equipment. As much as I don't want to admit it, I think this video could be real based on the creepy laughter alone. Still, I'd definitely like to know what you think after watching this video. I'm especially looking for the opinions of people who have experience with audio engineering.
More than likely, the reason why I stumped it's his buddy or something. I mean, I'm calling bull. Chills. Trying to feed me that.
Number 7. A YouTuber named Maddie Ann thinks she sees something walking around her backyard, so she grabs a camera and a high-powered flashlight and sets out to record it. By the time she gets outside, she doesn't see it anymore.
My coffee is getting cold. I need one of those heated coffee cups. I really do. I love my coffee. I hate when it gets cold. I like frappuccinos, don't get me wrong, but those are meant to be cold. To me, coffee in a coffee cup is supposed to be hot. I like it hot. It's getting cold, and I'm sad about it. I need more coffee. I need a heated cup.
So she starts scanning the yard with her light to see if it will move again. The disfigured and misshapen shadow is what she finds. You can see it peeking from around a tree for a second before ducking back into the darkness. The shadow is not really the right size for a human, and the head appears to be bald and shaped oddly. What's really weird is how the camera captures no features.
It's not me, I swear. If this was
a person, then you should be able to see more details under the light. After all, the camera is able to pick up the brown color of the tree, so you would think that the person behind it would show some color too. Instead, Maddie Ann passes over a creature with a blank face. I don't think this was one of her friends, though I guess it could be someone wearing a costume with black mesh over the face. A man named Donald Jester uploaded this ghost video from 2003. Nothing is by this table. And then for an instant, there appears to be what Donald refers to as a ghost girl. I don't necessarily agree that there is enough detail to tell if this was a ghost or not, let alone if it was a girl, but there is something there. Since this video was taken in December, and the front door is open, I guess it could be cold enough to be someone's breath, or something else from outside. Number 6.
Yeah, because it looked like a car was going down the road, okay? I'm debunking this. There was a car going down the road. They was doing something in the house. There was probably either some smoke or some steam from them cooking because it was a kitchen. The light went down the road. It came in through the door, shined off of it. That's what that was. Big brain. I have a big brain. Can't tell it. You can't tell it, but it's in there. It's in there, and it's big, and I know things. Or at least try to act like I know things. That way I sound smart. Yeah. Don't judge me.
Makes his way down the street without any clue as to the danger that's about to come straight his way. Everything looks as ordinary as possible. Just another day on Stoke Newington High Street in London. There's no possible way you can predict what's going to happen next in this video. It's way too random, so even if you can tell me what direction the threat is about to come from, then I will be satisfied. He makes it past this cafe in 10 seconds, and literally 1 second later, the entire roof comes tumbling down in a choking cloud of dust and jagged debris. Bricks litter the street just a few steps from where he just was. If he had done anything besides walk on by, like tying his shoes or looking in the window.
Yeah, like, okay, he barely
and he would have been struck down on the spot with no hope of surviving.
If he even stopped to look at someone's butt.
I mean, it really couldn't get
death by rubbernecking
any closer. The heel of his foot is literally still in the shot as the bricks begin to tumble.
Come on.
Only a psychic could have ever guessed the way this video ends.
Bro. My big ass has been squished.
3 firefighters are trying to cut a hole in the roof to stick a fire hose through when the weakened structure collapses underneath their feet. Directly under the letter J is where one of them is standing when the ceiling gives. Now the area where they just were is a little more than a square hole with burning hot heat pouring from below. He barely has enough time to grab onto the ledge. A thin layer of burning insulation is the only thing keeping him from falling below. His equipment is too heavy, and he needs the other 2 to hoist him over. With their vision blurred the entire time, they lay on the ground stunned for a moment, and then walk single file to the ladder, each glad that it's all 3 of them returning and not just 2. Number 5. It's just a normal news day in Cincinnati, Ohio, until a UFO...
That's so scary. Mass respect for all firefighters, volunteer firefighters. But God!
Reveals itself in broad daylight.
A nice start to the day, and you get a shot of this, yeah. You know what? No complaint. What was that? Who's that right there?
The stunned news anchor is able to track the fast-moving UFO with his finger until it is completely gone from sight, and his...
What is that?
Confused reaction is the same as almost everyone who has seen this video since. Some people have tried to explain this sighting as the planet Venus, which is only possible during certain times of the year, but since the UFO clearly travels in front of a building at one point, I don't think that this particular explanation is possible. A YouTuber named Timeless Soon was watching a German...
What? And if you look right... What is that? I don't know, bro.
Television show when suddenly this popped up on his screen.
Oh,
the UFO hangs around for a bit before silently gliding away. If anyone speaks German, please let me know what is being said here. Tell me if they give the name of the location, and if this story has anything to do with unusual alien activity at all. Number 4. This YouTube channel is dedicated to finding a local legend known only as the Clover Forest creature. 2 friends are investigating an area of the woods where the last sighting was reported when they detect what appears to be a pair of eyes staring at them from across a creek.
Whoa, get down. Oh my god, that's it. I think so.
At first I thought this could just be one of their friends wearing a mask with glowing red eyes, but watch this next part and tell me what you think. The eyes briefly go away and then reappear, which makes me think that this creature is blinking.
No, keep your light on it, keep your light on it.
Soon the Clover Forest creature walks away and is not seen again. It's too bad that they didn't have a high beam flashlight to shine across the creek.
Too bad it was filmed on a potato.
Still, tell me whether you think this video is scripted or real based on the 11 seconds of video I was able to show.
And if I'm not mistaken, like the other one is like 4 friends, they're all out. They end up, 3 of them make it to a boat, 1 of them ends up jumping off of a cliff into the water, and the thing jumps in behind them. I'm sorry, I think that's Bo. And if this is the same as the other video, just with different people, I'm going to say it's Bo.
Live news broadcast in Montreal shows a strange flying object in the dark city sky. Pay attention to the area just left of the newscaster.
Je vous conseille d'en profiter puisque pour la fin de semaine, ça pourrait se gâter. Alors évidemment qu'il y a ce système dépressionnaire qui est en provenance du Midwest américain.
That is weird.
Some people
But
say that this is clearly a meteorite, but then
it could
again, other people say it's far too large and slow moving to be one. Whatever it is, the object definitely appears to become larger as it draws closer to Earth. Maybe it's burned up in the Earth's atmosphere, and this is it falling to Earth. Either way, we'll likely never know if this was a meteorite or an actual spacecraft. Number
it could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of
3.
things.
These mysterious worm-like creatures were allegedly discovered by some dock workers in Germany. According to this video's description, the bizarre creatures were immediately taken to a nearby institution
Looks like intestine, bruh.
of ocean research but never properly identified. Let me know if you think this is the creature's mouth here. If so, it looks big enough to swallow an arm. This video was taken sometime in 2011, but I couldn't find any follow-up information. If you know anything else about this video, then please let me know if it's real, and if this creature was ever identified. Number 2.
That looks disgusting.
This reportedly leaked video shows the inside of an underground base full of foreign equipment. Rows and rows of what appears to be storage tanks stretch as far as the eye can see, though exactly what's inside is anyone's guess. Look closely at these smooth pods and you'll see that each one contains the dark outline of something growing inside. It looks vaguely human, though its true form cannot be determined. The video's quality is very grainy and looks to be taken at least decades ago, if not longer. Experts have been unable to prove a concrete source for this video, meaning it's probably original. I think that a movie set like this would have cost a lot of money to design, so this is either a very high-budget amateur film, or most likely real footage taken by unknown people. Let me know what you think it is, and be sure to provide more information if you have any.
Come on, chills, bro. You make video content. You know how easy it is to edit stuff. Especially as grainy as that was. I mean, even 10 years ago, it didn't look that bad. And if that is footage of like some high security place, they're going to have better cameras than that, bro. I'm just saying.
It was taken at the Galway Swimming Club in Ireland. It may not seem like much at first, but lion's mane jellyfish like this one can grow larger than a whale and have more than 1,000 poisonous tentacles. Each one can be over 100 feet long. In other words, it's one of the last creatures you'd want to ever see lurking in a public swimming area. Hundreds of these slow-moving monsters have been showing up on the west coast of Ireland, and no one knows why. Marine experts are completely baffled as to what could have changed in the waters to accommodate them, especially in such large numbers. Meanwhile, lion's mane jellyfish are continuing to send swimmers to the hospital, and the infestation shows no signs of slowing down. I've got a challenge for you.
I got a challenge for you. He's got to challenge people.
What a YouTuber named Aquachigger found growing on the bottom of a river in Williamsport, Maryland. It's a riverbed full of green gelatinous plant life that strangely sways and shimmers. Aquachigger believes he may have found some kind of a brightly colored underwater alien colony. Well, I'm not so sure about that. I certainly do think this is a strange find. Let me know if you have seen anything like it before. And
When
if
I'm
so,
sick.
what it could be. Thanks for checking out this video.
That was disgusting. Okay, and as per usual, we are ending it with my dude, MrBallen. This one is titled, This Frat Boy Did the Unthinkable, Mature Audiences Only. Kids, go to the other room.
The crime at the center of today's story is considered to be one of the most disturbing of all time. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload to...
Great. Anytime this happens, he gets me. He does. Some M. Night Shyamalan, boo. I love you, MrBallen, but your videos are what's going to make me go to hell. I'm just saying. I have laughed at things I shouldn't have laughed at. I've been sad at things I shouldn't have been sad about. You're a mean man, MrBallen, but I respect you for it. Happy. Warning, disturbing images and statements. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh, God.
Austin Harroff was born on December 21st, 1996, to a dentist and a pharmacist. They lived in a beautiful home in Palm Beach County, Florida, which is not only one of the nicest and wealthiest places to live in Florida, but it is one of the nicest and wealthiest places to live in all of America. And that's why, as of 2021, there are 44 billionaires that call this paradise their home. In 2010, when Austin was 13 years old, his parents suddenly got divorced, and within the same calendar year, both of his parents had new girlfriends and boyfriends. Now, of course, this was a shock to Austin and to his 1 year younger sister, Haley, but they both relatively quickly adjusted to their new normal. And that was in large part because the kids didn't move out. They stayed in the family home with their mom, and their father, he did move out, but he moved into a home that was very close by. About a year after the divorce, Austin began high school, and immediately he excelled. He was placed into all advanced classes, and within these advanced classes, Austin was consistently at the top of his class. Austin was also a big athletic guy. He was about 6 feet tall and weighed about 200 pounds. And so naturally, he played football for all 4 years he was in high school. And for 1 year, his sophomore year, he also wrestled. But despite his size and willingness to play these very rough physical sports, Austin was not an aggressive guy. In fact, his football coaches actually used to criticize him for not being aggressive enough. And on game days, they would try to make him mad in hopes that would inspire him to go out there and smash some people. But it really didn't work because Austin was Austin. He was just kind of a laid-back guy who was actually much more interested in helping people than smashing them. In fact, towards the end of high school, Austin became obsessed with trying to identify a career that would allow him to help the most people. And he was so passionate about this that when he spoke about it, a huge smile would kind of involuntarily appear on his face. And so because of this, and because of Austin's generally happy disposition, his father very lovingly began referring to him as the happy boy. Shortly before Austin's graduation in 2015, he received a letter in the mail from Florida State University, and it was informing him he had been accepted into their 4-year pre-med program. Austin had settled on medicine as being his intended career path to help the most people, and so being accepted into this very prestigious program was like a best-case scenario. And so Austin and his family were elated, and that summer that followed his high school graduation was totally charmed. Austin was on cloud nine. He spent a lot of time with his family and his friends, and then finally at the end of the summer, his family packed all of his stuff into the car, and they drove 6 hours north to Tallahassee, where the Florida State campus was. They helped to move him into his dorm, and then afterwards they gave him a big hug, said good luck, and they left. And I'm sure on their ride back, the family members thought to themselves, Austin is doing so great. He is not only ready for college, he is ready to be an adult. He's ready to live on his own and be responsible. And at the end of Austin's first year in college, that supposition about him ready to be an adult seemed to be accurate. Austin got excellent grades, he met a nice girlfriend, and even though he wasn't playing organized sports like football, he had found another athletic outlet in bodybuilding. And he had actually built a decent-sized social media presence around bodybuilding and fitness. But underneath all of this public success Austin was having that year, he was actually struggling a lot of the time. He just wasn't telling anyone. In a journal he kept, he documented a deep sense of inadequacy caused primarily from his sense that his peers didn't accept him. And so he would write endlessly about how if he could just stop being...
Oh, that's sad. See, things like that happen, though. I mean, it's really important if anyone ever is struggling with anything, talk to someone you trust. It can be the difference in probably what's going to happen in this story and living a long, successful life. It doesn't hurt to talk to people about your problems. It doesn't. I'm scared on where this is going, though, bro. Curse you, MrBallen.
Being so shy and be more assertive and outgoing that more people would embrace him and would like him and would accept him. Over the course of that year, Austin also started abusing different substances. Those included things like alcohol, marijuana, and Vyvanse. Vyvanse is a drug that is a stimulant, and it's used to treat people with attention deficit disorder. He also experimented with hallucinogenic drugs like acid and mushrooms, and he also tried MDMA, which is kind of like a cross between a stimulant and a hallucinogenic. And those are just the drugs that we are aware he was taking. It's entirely possible he was taking other drugs.
That's a lot, bro. Like, that's a lot. Oh, you know, here's just drinking a little bit, smoking some weed. That's fine. That's cool. Do you, bro. Then he started, you know, shrooms, acid, and I would be so screwed up, dude.
Drugs too. Regardless, Austin began oscillating between the high of whatever drug or combination of drugs he was on to the low of his sober mind, which was totally saturated with anxious and depressive thoughts. Before the end of the school year, Austin was secretly poised for a full-blown mental breakdown, and it seemed like he knew it was coming too. In the last month before the end of school, his internet search history is filled with questions like, I think I'm crazy, what do I do? And how do you know if you're crazy? And how to deal with obsessive thoughts? And do I need to sleep? And what happens if you don't sleep? It was clear he was starting to question his own sanity. When Austin finally...
He was questioning his own reality. He probably thought he was in the Matrix. He was just really, really messed up. Oh, this is going to go bad. So bad.
He returned back home from Florida State that summer. His family immediately noticed there was something wrong with Austin. Within a few days of being home, Austin had moved his bed from his bedroom down into the garage, claiming that the reason he did this was because the house was full of demons. At night, instead of sleeping, Austin would patrol the house. He would literally just walk all around the house all night, never stopping, and every 2 hours...
This ain't funny. You're not pulling me in this time, MrBallen. Maybe he did way too much acid. Maybe he really did think there was demons in the house, and that's why he had to sleep in the garage. I'm trying to not laugh. This is not. I know this ain't going. This is going to be bad. This is going to end bad. I'd be damned if you send me to hell this time, MrBallen. You're not doing it.
He would knock on the bedroom doors of his family members and loudly announce that he was guarding them from the demons in the house. Now, you can imagine how his family felt at the time. This was so unbelievably weird and totally out of character that they just didn't really know what to do. Even though it was obvious there was something wrong, they didn't jump into action. Instead, the only thing they did at first was to just start locking their bedroom doors at night to prevent Austin from coming inside during his nighttime patrols. But as the summer progressed and Austin continued to act totally weird with no explanation, his family began to become convinced that he must be on drugs, that is what would explain all of this totally strange behavior. And so when they confronted him about his drug use, he would admit that he was taking drugs, lots of different drugs, psychedelics, stimulants, you name it. He's taking all these drugs. And so naturally, his...
I can't do this. Oh. I'm about to lose my stuff, bro. Are you on drugs? Yeah, I'm on all of them.
family latched on to his drug use as being the root cause of his very strange behavior. And so they focused their efforts almost exclusively on getting Austin clean again. But towards the end of the summer, Austin said he wasn't taking any drugs, but Austin was still acting totally crazy and unhinged. And so around mid-August, the family decided they had to utilize something called the Baker Act. Under the Baker Act, individuals in Florida who are suspected of severe mental illness can be detained for up to 72 hours at the behest of their loved ones. And during these 72 hours, this individual is thoroughly assessed to see what's going on with them. And then at the end of those 72 hours, they are given a treatment plan that their family is supposed to help them enact. But before the family could utilize the Baker Act, something horrific happened. On the morning of August 15th, one of Austin's very close friends, who he had known since second grade, said Austin just showed up at his house without calling ahead of time or letting him know, which was very uncharacteristic.
This is where everything goes to shit. This is why I tried so hard not to laugh.
And when this friend opened the door to see what Austin wanted, Austin just asked him, "What year was I born?" And so the friend says, 1996. And as soon as Austin heard this, he didn't give a reaction to it. He just turned around and he left. And so this longtime friend is looking at Austin walking away, wondering, what's going on with this guy? Is he high on drugs? Is he drunk?
He's on everything.
So the friend goes back inside his house and he's thinking to himself, what should I do? And so after a couple of minutes, he decides, I got to call Austin and make sure he's okay. So he calls Austin. Austin picks up, and it's unclear what they talked about on the phone, but the friend convinced Austin to come back to his house and to just spend the day with him.
Oh,
really,
that's
the
bad.
friend just wanted to make sure Austin was okay. And so
That's
Austin
bad
comes
idea.
back to the friend's house, and then the two of them actually would leave the house and meet up with some of their other friends that were in town that summer, as well as meet up with Austin's sister.
He's going to kill them all.
They decide they're going to go to the beach for the day. And on their walk to the beach, Austin tells the group that he just needs to get something at his house and that he will meet them down at the water. And so at this point, the group believes Austin is just fine. So they say, okay, yep, we'll meet you down there. And so Austin breaks off. He goes to his house. And when he goes back to the beach and meets up with his group of friends again, he's changed his outfit. He was now wearing this very thick, large football jersey. He was wearing long sweatpants that were also very thick. He had on 2 wristwatches and he had on sunglasses. And so as he walks down onto the beach, his friends look up at him, and it's super hot out, and they're at the beach. So this is a totally weird outfit to have on. And immediately they start kind of giving him crap about his strange outfit choice. But Austin did not think it was funny at all. And at first he was quiet, but then he kind of lashed out and said, "If you tell me I'm crazy, I will kill you." And at this, his friends did not give him any more crap. Everyone just said, "Okay, man, hey, didn't mean anything by it. Just giving you a hard time. No big deal." And Austin's clearly worked up. And so his sister comes over to him and she's like, "Hey, calm down. It's okay. It's not a big deal." And during this conversation, Austin suddenly goes back to being normal again. And he turns to his sister and he says, "I'm actually half horse and I'm immortal." And his sister's like, "What? You really need to get professional help. You need to see a therapist or a psychologist or something. Something is wrong with you and it's been wrong all summer. You need to get help." Now, apparently, Austin actually responded to this very positively. And he said, "I agree. There is something going on, and I do need to get help. You're right." And so after that, Austin and the rest of the group, they stayed at the beach for several hours. And then in the evening time, Austin, his sister, and Austin's very close friend, who was the guy that saw Austin in the morning when he asked, what year was I born, they all said they had to leave. And so the trio, they leave the beach and they head to Duffy's, which was a restaurant in town. And they were going there to meet up with Austin's father and his father's girlfriend. And so as they're getting to this restaurant, they're walking along the sidewalk, they're nearing this restaurant, when suddenly Austin turns to his sister and says, "Hey, I need to test out my immortality." And he just turns away from her, away from the sidewalk, towards traffic, and just starts walking into traffic like he's going to let a car hit him to test his immortality. And so his sister immediately was able to...
Crazy has lost his freaking mind. What the hell is going
grabbed him and pulled him back onto the sidewalk, and then basically stood on the left side of him, preventing him from running out into traffic, and kind of pushed him along up the sidewalk right up to the front door of this restaurant. And when they got there, Austin had stopped trying to walk out into traffic. He was acting normal again, and it was there that the trio met up with Austin's father and his father's girlfriend, and the five of them went into Duffy's restaurant. It was about 7:45 p.m. when they got inside, and they were very quickly sat in the very back of the restaurant in this booth. And so there was a CCTV camera that watched them while they were inside this building. And so they're sitting at this booth, and about 3 minutes after having sat down, Austin gets up and walks away from the booth and walks as if he's going towards the bathroom, but then stops, doesn't go to the bathroom, turns around and walks back towards the front of the building, and then walks out the front doors, just leaves the restaurant altogether. Now, it's unclear if the rest of his family saw him do this. It doesn't seem like they did. But just a minute later, Austin comes back inside the restaurant and just walks right back to his table and sits down like nothing had ever happened. Less than 10 minutes later, Austin would get up again from his table, except this time, instead of feigning going to the bathroom, he just walks straight from his table right out the front doors of the restaurant and disappears. A couple minutes later, Austin's mother, who was not at dinner with them, she was at her home, which happened to be nearby this restaurant. She was home when she heard the sound of someone coming into her house. And so she went around to see who it was, and she found her son, Austin, in her kitchen, drinking vegetable oil, and there was Parmesan cheese all over the counter that apparently he had been eating as well. And so she runs up to him and she grabs the vegetable oil and she puts it down and she tells him to stop, at which point Austin does stop. And then I guess Austin just went up to his room and he changed out of his clothes because perhaps he got oil all over his shirt. And then his mom just drove him back to the restaurant. And so she watched him get out of the car and she watched him go through the front door and then she drove off. And so about 30 minutes after he left that second time, Austin walks through the front doors of the restaurant. He's got a different shirt on, different hat on, and he just walks to the back of the restaurant where his sister, his friend, his father, and his father's girlfriend are, and he sits down like nothing had ever happened. At first, it looks like everyone at the table is just silent. But then Austin's father very clearly says something to Austin, and it seems kind of hostile. And it would turn out Austin's father, who loved his son, was just totally at a loss for what to do with him. And he said to Austin when he sat back down, "What is wrong with you?" And at this, Austin just stands up and presses his father's face back up against his seat, kind of pinning him there. And then at some point, he just lets go, he leaves the booth, and he walks right out of the restaurant for a third time. Austin's friend, who was eating with them, he got up and kind of chased after Austin, but he was about 30 seconds behind him. And so by the time he got outside, he didn't know where Austin went. And so he quickly came back in the restaurant. He told the rest of the group he didn't know where Austin was. And so at this point, Austin's father's girlfriend would actually call the police and report Austin missing. They knew he was totally unhinged and they didn't know where he was going to go, if he was a threat to himself or someone else. And so they figured they should just tell the police and have the police go find him. About 4 miles away from this restaurant, 53-year-old Michelle Mishcon was sitting in her garage watching TV. Normally, she would be joined by her husband, 59-year-old John Stevens, but he was out walking their dog. So for the time being, Michelle was alone. The couple had been married for roughly 20 years. They had 3 kids together from previous marriages, and they were just totally in love with each other. That garage was like their happy place. That was basically like their living room. They loved having the door wide open so they could wave to neighbors and flag people down to have a drink with them or just chat with them. They were just known to be a very happy, loving couple that were fun to be around. And according to their kids, they had both recently retired.
It's going bad. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Retired from his landscaping company that he owned, and Michelle retired from her financial advisory job, and the two of them were apparently both just really
I can't do this no more. MrBallen, you're slowly killing me. I don't even want to know what crazy does. I don't want to know. You can't make me know. No, I'm done. No, I have to know. I don't want to know. I have to know. I'm done. But I have to. I don't want to do this no more, MrBallen.
Excited about retirement life. They were excited to spend more time together and go out with their friends and go out fishing on their boat with their dog, and then also spend.
Little, go lay down. Good girl.
as much time as they could just lounging back in their garage. John and Michelle's neighbor across the street was a middle-aged man named Jeff Fisher. Jeff was fairly close with the couple. He would usually watch their dogs anytime they went away, and he would often go in their garage and have a drink and just kind of hang out with them. And so this particular night, he was over in his house, and he was going to bed early. So he laid down in his bed, he's getting ready to go to sleep, when he hears some strange sounds coming from outside his window across the street, over near John and Michelle's property. And so Jeff sits up in his bed and kind of strains his ears to see what it was that he heard. And as he's trying to listen for some faint sound, he suddenly hears a blood-curdling scream, a woman's scream, coming from across the street. And so Jeff instantly leapt into action. He jumped out of his bed, he ran downstairs, and he ran out his front door, and he looked across the street, and he saw this unknown man, some young man that was slamming the car door of Michelle's car that was parked in her driveway, and he begins walking up the driveway, and at the top of the driveway, Jeff sees Michelle is standing in the garage, and she looks totally terrified, and she's facing this unknown young man. And of course, this unknown young man was Austin Harif. Now, Jeff had no idea what was actually going on. All he knew was he heard this scream, which was probably Michelle, and he's looking out there and he's seeing a situation that just doesn't look good. And so instinctively, he decided he would just run across the street and make sure Michelle was okay. And if he had to, he would confront this unknown man, Austin. So Jeff begins running across his property, trying to get across the street to Michelle. But before he could even get across the street, he's looking up and he can see this guy, Austin, has grabbed Michelle and thrown her on the ground. And now he's on top of her and he's beating her. And so Jeff runs onto the driveway. And as he's going right up the driveway between the...
Oh my God. What the hell?
Two cars that were parked there, Austin leaps off of Michelle. He turns around and he looks at Jeff and he says, "You don't want a part of this." And now Jeff, he's a pretty big guy. And so he's looking at Austin and he knows that if he doesn't do anything, this guy is just going to continue pummeling poor Michelle. And he had no idea where John was. And so he ran up and kind of lunged at Austin. And as he did that, Austin swung and he hit Jeff right across the side of the head. But Jeff took the hit. He didn't fall down. He grabbed Austin by the collar and threw him as hard as he could to the ground. And Austin, he hit the pavement hard, face first. And so Jeff is looking at this guy, kind of thinking he's not going to get up. But as he's assessing the situation, watching Austin stand back up again, Jeff suddenly feels a blinding pain in his face, in the side of his head, in his neck, on his back. And he looks down and he sees blood all over his arms. It's everywhere. He's covered in blood. It would turn out Austin was carrying a knife. And so when he punched Jeff, that knife went into his face, it cut the side of his head, it cut his neck, and it cut his back. He had 5 different puncture points from that one swing. And so Jeff believed at the time this was a potentially fatal wound. He was worried perhaps his jugular had been struck and he was bleeding to death. And he's seeing Austin stand back up, coming right after him with this knife. And so Jeff decides their only chance is for him to run and call the police. And so he runs into Michelle's property. He's thinking that he's kind of drawing this guy towards him away from Michelle. He runs into their property, kind of slams into all their doors. He goes out a back door and then he loops around the property and then he makes a run for it straight across the street to his house. Never once did he turn around to see if this guy was after him. He figured he was right behind him. He gets to his house, he runs inside, he locks the door, and then he calls 911.
Police and medical. Young man beating up a woman across the street.
Are either of them injured? Can you tell from where you are?
Yes, there's a girl laying on the ground. He beat her up. I ran over there. I'm bleeding profusely here at the moment.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Can you tell if she's conscious?
No, it does not appear so, no. I've been stabbed in the back. I'm bleeding pretty bad.
After the call is placed and Jeff is certain that help is on the way, he's barely conscious, but all he can remember thinking was, I hope this maniac, Austin, has abandoned his attack and just run off. Or I hope John has come outside and he's helping his wife. But unfortunately, all Jeff could hear was the sound of Austin across the street making these loud, animalistic grunting sounds. And at the same time, he hears the sound of someone screaming at the top of their lungs. He doesn't even know if it's one person, if it's two people, if it's male, if it's female. All he hears is screams and grunting sounds. And then seconds later, the police show up. The following narrative is the account of the second responding officer, who we'll just call Dan, and the first responding officer we'll just call Kristen. And so Dan, he comes flying down the street, he's got his sirens on, and he pulls in right behind Kristen's cop car, which is parked right out in front of John and Michelle's property. Kristen is already running up the driveway, her gun is out, she's getting ready to engage somebody at the top of the driveway. And so Dan, he hops out of his car, he's got his hand on his gun, and as he turns to run up the driveway, his view is obscured. There are two cars parked in the driveway.
I can't sit still. Like, this has me messed up. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, why?
And so he can't see what's at the top of the driveway that Kristen is apparently getting ready to draw her gun on. But as he begins running up the driveway, he sees there is this massive 6-foot-wide stream of blood just coming down the driveway. And so he goes around the left side of the left car. He goes up and he sees Kristen right at the top of the driveway. She's got her gun aimed at the ground right in front of the car. So he can't see what's in front of the car yet. He comes bombing around the left side right behind Kristen, and he looks down at what she's aiming her gun at. And he sees there's this man lying on the ground. His eyes are open. He's just laying there kind of stiff. And he's looking up at Kristen and he's looking up at Dan. And he's just quietly saying, "Please help me." The man on the ground was John Stevens, and on top of John Stevens was Austin. He was kind of laying sideways on John's chest. He had his left arm wrapped around John's neck to kind of hold him in place, and then he had his right arm and he was doing something to John's face. But Dan couldn't really tell what he was doing. All he could take in was there was clearly an aggressor, and they needed to get him off of the victim. But Kristen could not take the shot, because if she did, she ran the risk of firing the bullet through Austin into John, killing John. And so Dan tells Kristen, "Hold on, I'm going to tase him." And so he moves around Kristen to her left side. So he's positioned looking down at the back of Austin. He pulls out his taser, and right before he shoots his taser into Austin's back, he sees what Austin is doing to John's face. With his free right hand, he was reaching into John's mouth and pulling his cheek out, kind of like a fish hook. He was pulling it out as far as he could, and then he was biting into John's cheek, and he was ripping out pieces of flesh and chewing and swallowing them. And from his position, Dan only saw this for a second, but he suddenly noticed and...
What? Oh my God. I can't do it. I'm done. No, I don't want to do this no more. No. That's too much. That's too much, MrBallen. Do we have to finish? I mean, seriously? For the love of everything holy. I don't want to. He is eating his face. Like some bath salt stuff, bruh.
Kristen, the other officer, would later confirm there were all these chunks already missing from John's face. And so Dan kind of snapped out of what he was seeing and fired his taser into the back of Austin, but it did nothing. It had absolutely no effect. Austin was entirely focused on biting John's face. That was all he was doing. He wasn't even registering that there were cops with their guns drawn on him. It was like they weren't even there. And so Dan runs back around Kristen to the other side of her. He's now on her right side, so he's standing right next to the car, looking down at Austin's front. And he tells Kristen to kind of back up for a second, and then Dan winds up and kicks Austin square in the face, knocking his head off of John's face. But as soon as Austin comes off of John, he doesn't get up and try to fight with Dan. Instead, he just jumps back down, gets a deeper grip on John, and plunges his mouth back onto John's face. And so again, Dan winds up and boots Austin square in the face, knocking his head back. But again, he's totally unfazed. He doesn't want to attack the officers. He just wants to eat John's face. And so he goes right back down, gets a tighter grip. He goes back and he starts chewing on John's face again. And so Dan was just repeatedly kicking him in the face over and over and over again, right as another set of officers showed up, and they had a canine. They had a dog. And so they come flying up. They kind of see the situation, and Dan tells them, release the dog. And so sure enough, they release the canine. The canine clamps down on Austin's right arm, the arm that was fish hooking and kind of pulling John's face out. And the dog really got a good bite on his arm and yanked it away from John's face. But Austin just instantly ripped his arm back, doing severe damage to his arm from the dog's teeth, and just repositioned himself and went back to biting John's face. And so the dog, just as it was trained, did another bite. It grabbed back onto Austin's arm, and it pulled it off of John's body. And so his arm is back like this again. And Austin, again, unfazed, just yanked his arm out of the dog's teeth, again, shredding the muscles of his arm, and gets back in position and continues to eat John's face. And then finally, the dog gets another bite into Austin's arm, and this time when the dog managed to yank Austin's arm away from John, Dan timed it so he booted Austin square in the face right as his arm was being pulled back, and he hit him hard enough that Austin actually flew off of John and landed on his back. And as soon as he was on the ground, Dan actually leapt over John and landed on Austin's face, smashing his head into the cement, which kind of stunned him for a second. And as soon as he was stunned, Dan whipped out his handcuffs, threw it over one of Austin's wrists, and began pulling him by the handcuffs up the driveway away from John. But as soon as he had some separation and Dan went to put the other handcuff on Austin, Austin began fighting back, and he looked up at Dan and he screamed, "Kill me! I'm eating humans! Kill me!" Dan didn't even know what to do, and so he's trying to put the other handcuff on him the whole time. Austin is screaming, "Kill me! Kill me!" And so other officers had to run in, and then finally, after 3 other officers came over, they were able to hold Austin down long enough to get both handcuffs on him. After Austin was finally restrained, the officers checked on the victims. They checked on Michelle, who was in the garage, and unfortunately, she was deceased. She had died from blunt force trauma. And John, even though he had been alive when the police first showed up, he had succumbed to the multitude of injuries he had sustained, from stabbings to beatings to having a portion of his face ripped off. It's believed after John came back from his walk, which would have been right after Jeff had been attacked and ran back to his house, John saw Austin in his garage attacking his wife, and John ran in to try to save her. So ultimately, John would die trying to save the woman that he loved. Their dog would survive the attack. It was unharmed, and it was given to one of their children to take care of. And Jeff Fisher, the neighbor who tried to save John and Michelle, he would survive the attack and make a full recovery. After Austin was finally handcuffed and was laying restrained on the driveway, he suddenly became unresponsive. He was rushed to the hospital, where it was determined he had drank some poisonous chemicals, most likely from inside of John and Michelle's garage, and that was what was causing his organs to fail. Ultimately, Austin would go into a coma for 11 days from whatever he ingested, but the doctors were able to save his life, and so he would come out of that coma and he would make a full physical recovery. It was initially assumed that because of Austin's drug abuse history, that he must have been on some drug when he perpetrated this heinous crime. It was speculated that he could have been on bath salts or flakka, which are these synthetic hallucinogenic drugs.
He had to be on something. I'm sorry. I need a minute. I'm sorry. I need a minute. That's a lot. Oh, God, that's a lot. All right, let's
They're very powerful, and at the time they were quite popular in Florida, and they'd caused some other users to go on these kind of wild, violent rampages. And so it seemed to make a lot of sense that he must have been on one of those. But when Austin's toxicology report finally came back, it showed he only had a very small amount of THC in his system, which is the drug found in marijuana, and then the other drugs that were in his system were all induced by the doctors and nurses at the hospital, which meant at the time of this attack, Austin was effectively sober. When the police asked Austin, "Why did you do this?" he initially said, "I don't remember, I don't know." But eventually he would open up and he would tell this story that no sane person could possibly understand. He said after he left that restaurant where his family was that third time, after he fought with his father and he stormed out, after that, he saw this dark figure outside with a white face. And he knew immediately that this figure was evil. And so instinctively, Austin began running away from this evil figure. And so he ran about 4 miles into John and Michelle's neighborhood. And when he got to this neighborhood, a neighborhood he was not familiar with, that he didn't intend to go to on purpose, he just kind of wound up there. He said he saw this brightly lit up garage and he ran up into it, believing he could enlist the help of the people inside of this house and that they would help him defeat this evil figure that was lurking somewhere nearby. And so he runs up into this garage, which happens to be John and Michelle's garage, and Michelle is in there. John is not. He's out for the walk with his dog, and Austin approaches her and tries to get her to help him, but he probably came off looking completely insane, and Michelle screamed, at which point Austin said he believed Michelle was a witch, and so he pulled out his knife and he attacked her. And then after she fell to the ground, Austin said he drank a bottle of alcohol or something, which we now know was most likely very poisonous lawn chemicals that was just in the garage. After he drinks that bottle, he turns around and now he's looking out of the garage towards the street. And he said he saw this other figure in the doorway with a dog next to him. And then Austin said his mind just went blank. It's believed the figure he saw in the doorway was John Stevens returning from his walk, but we don't know for sure, and frankly, this story is pretty incoherent to begin with, because it doesn't account for the fact that before John came back, Austin had been grappling with Jeff Fisher and stabbing Jeff Fisher, the neighbor. But Austin would say he has no recollection of encountering Jeff Fisher, he has no recollection of John or what he looked like, and he certainly doesn't remember biting John's face, and he had no memory of any interactions with police. He said that basically he turned around, he sees this figure, this dog, and then his mind went blank, and then he woke up about 2 weeks later in the hospital. Now, when his story went public, a lot of people just were not willing to accept that story. They said he was making it up so he could plead insanity at his trial and get a lesser sentence. But a world-renowned forensic psychologist named Philip Resnick, who had worked on many high-profile cases before, he did a lengthy assessment of Austin, and he came to a very different conclusion than the public. In his 38-page report, Resnick points out the fact that Austin continued to bite John's face even when
he was getting kicked square in the face by a big old cop. I mean, something ain't right. And then the dog,
he was being openly threatened with being shot by the police officer standing right over him. He continued to bite John's face after he was tased. He continued to bite John's face after he was kicked in the head repeatedly. He continued to bite John's face after a dog repeatedly bit him. This all suggests that Austin was truly in a psychotic state when this attack occurred. A sane person...
He looks crazy. I'm sorry. He did. He looked crazy. Y'all seen that mugshot. He looked
influence of drugs will retain a basic survival instinct. They will try to protect themselves. So when there are guns pointed at them, or they're being physically harmed, or there's threats of violence, they'll do things to protect themselves. But Austin didn't. It was like he had no idea about anything else except John's face. Resnick specified that the type of psychotic episode that Austin was suffering from on the night of the attack is something called clinical lycanthropy delusions. Clinical lycanthropy is a very rare occurrence where an individual believes they are no longer human. And almost always what they believe they are is something akin to a werewolf. And in Austin's case, it's not that hard to figure out why you might reach that type of conclusion. He had told his sister that he believed he was half horse, and then on a couple other occasions he had told his other friends that he believed he was half dog. And then, of course, on the night of the attack, after he killed Michelle, he pounced literally on John and began eating his face while making those loud, animalistic grunting sounds. This is behavior that is certainly on par with what you would expect a werewolf to do in a movie. But this was not a movie, this was real life. After Austin came out of his coma, but before he had been transferred to jail, he agreed to do an interview with the clinical psychologist, TV personality Phil McGraw, better known as Dr. Phil. And during their 10-minute Zoom interview, Austin would break down and cry and say he was incredibly sorry to the family of the victims, that he didn't really know why it happened, and that clearly there was something wrong with him and he needed help, and he just hoped they could find it in their hearts to eventually forgive him. But it's unlikely the family of the victims are going to forgive him anytime soon, especially when you consider they came out in an interview and said, I hope Austin makes a full recovery from his coma, that he has no brain damage, that he is totally A-okay, so he can be fully aware and lucid when they read him his sentence, a sentence they hoped would be the death penalty. As of right now, though, the family of the victims will just have to keep on waiting because Austin is still in jail awaiting trial. So that's going to do it, guys. If you got something out of today's episode,
Normally I have something to say. I don't. I don't. I'm dumbfounded. I'm lost for words. I just don't want this story in my brain no more. That was way too much. Oh my God. Like, I almost cried at one part of it. It was... That's awful. Curse you, MrBallen. You do this to me every time. Every time. You are way too good at telling stories. That was an emotional roller coaster that I don't want to do ever again. No. All right, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this, because no, I don't. No. Okay. Yeah. Moving on. That's it. We're done. I'm done. I ain't doing it. I don't even know what to say. Let's just say bye. Yeah, let's do that. So, if you're a fan of the spooky, creepy, strange, or deranged, think about subscribing and leave a thumbs up. It really helps. And I love the comments that y'all have been leaving me. It's amazing. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Stay spooky.